He did not blink. The Senate was screaming. Knives were already being sharpened in the shadows, and the most powerful man in Rome wanted him dead. And yet Cato sat there, still, calm, almost bored. While grown men around him sweated and trembled, his hands were steady. How does a human being do that? How does anyone stay unbreakable when the entire world is collapsing on top of him? Because here is the uncomfortable truth. You have already failed this test. The moment your phone buzzed with bad news, the morning your chest tightened before you even opened your eyes, the conversation you avoided because your heart was pounding too hard to speak. Cato faced worse, far worse, and never flinched once. And the way he trained himself to do it was not magic. It was a code. 3 steps, 2,000 years old. And by the end of this, it will be yours. Rome, in the final years of the Republic, a city eating itself alive, corruption everywhere, senators bought like cattle, generals marching armies toward the city to seize power by force. And standing in the middle of this storm was one man who refused to be moved, Marcus Porcius Cato. People called him stubborn, rigid, impossible. But what they were really describing was something they had never seen before. A man who could not be bribed, could not be frightened, could not be broken. There is a story about him as a boy that tells you everything. A powerful ally of the family lifted young Cato to a window high above the street and threatened to throw him out unless he agreed to support a certain law. The other children begged. They cried. They promised anything. Cato hung there in the man's hands, the ground far below, and said nothing. He simply stared back. The man, unnerved, set him down, a child, dangling over death, and he would not bend. But here is what almost no one realizes about that moment. Cato was not born this way. That stillness was not a gift handed to him at birth. It was built, brick by brick, through a brutal private practice that he hid from the rest of Rome. And what he did to forge himself is where this gets strange. Most people, when they feel fear, run from it. They distract themselves, they scroll, they reach for the drink, the snack, the noise, anything to make the discomfort stop. Cato did the exact opposite. He walked toward it, on purpose. Historians tell us he would deliberately wear clothing that drew ridicule, walking through the forum dressed in a way that invited stares and laughter. And he would feel that hot shame crawl up his neck, and he would stay in it. He trained himself to be comfortable being uncomfortable. He would go without food when he was hungry. He would walk bareheaded in the burning sun and bareheaded in the freezing rain. Not because he hated himself, because he understood something most people never learn. If you only ever feel safe and warm and praised, then the first cold wind of real adversity will knock you flat. He was inoculating himself, taking small, controlled doses of hardship so that when the real thing came, his body already knew the feeling and did not panic. Now pause. Think about your own life for a moment. When was the last time you chose discomfort on purpose? Most of us spend every waking hour engineering it away. We keep the room the perfect temperature. We never sit with hunger. We never sit with silence. We never sit with the awkward pause in a conversation. And so, when life finally corners us, when the diagnosis comes, when the job vanishes, when the person leaves, we have no callus, no armor, nothing. We crumble because we spent years training ourselves to be soft. Cato saw the trap, and that is step 1 of his code. But step 1 alone would have made him merely tough. What came next is what made him unbreakable, and it almost cost him everything in the Senate that day. Return to that scene. Cato on the Senate floor, surrounded by enemies. Julius Caesar, brilliant, ruthless, hungry for absolute power, is the man on the other side. And Cato is the single greatest obstacle standing between Caesar and the throne he craves. On this day, Caesar receives a note, passed quietly to his hand during the debate. Cato sees it, and in a flash of suspicion, he accuses Caesar loudly in front of everyone of conspiring with the enemies of Rome. Read the note aloud, he demands. Prove your innocence. The whole Senate turns. Caesar, calm, hands the note over to Cato himself. Cato unfolds it, and his face changes, because it is not a political conspiracy at all. It is a private love letter from Cato's own sister to Caesar. His enemy is sleeping with his sister, And now Cato is holding the proof in his own hands in front of the entire Roman Senate. The humiliation is total. A lesser man would have exploded, would have lost control, started a fight, made himself the fool. And this is the exact moment that separates Cato from everyone else in that room. Because here was the second step of his code, working in real time. He had trained himself to ask one question instantly in the heat of any disaster. Is this in my control or not? The letter, the betrayal, his sister's choices, Caesar's smugness, none of it was in his control. So Cato did something that stunned the room. He threw the letter back at Caesar and simply said, "Take it, you drunk." And he moved on. He refused to let a thing outside his power capture his mind. He had felt the sting. He was not made of stone, but he did not let it run him. That is the discipline, not the absence of emotion, the refusal to be governed by it. And you feel this every single day, whether you notice it or not. Someone cuts you off in traffic, and you carry that anger into your home, and you snap at the people you love over something a stranger did an hour ago. A coworker makes a comment, and you replay it 40 times in the shower, handing them rent-free control of your mind. An email lands and ruins your entire afternoon. Think about how insane that is. You are letting things you cannot change, other people's moods, other people's choices, the weather, the past, reach into your chest and twist. Cato's question cuts straight through it. Is this in my control? If it is, then act. Do the work. Fix it. If it is not, then why are you bleeding over it? This is not cold detachment. This is the most practical form of freedom ever discovered. And modern science is finally catching up to what he knew. Psychologists today have a name for the practice of deliberately exposing yourself to manageable stress so you grow stronger instead of weaker. They call it stress inoculation. Cold exposure, hard exercise, fasting, public speaking, doing the difficult thing on purpose. Every one of these floods the body with controlled adversity and teaches the nervous system not to fire the panic alarm. Researchers have found that people who regularly face small, chosen discomforts develop measurably greater resilience to the large, unchosen ones. 2,000 years before a single brain scan existed, Cato had reverse engineered the entire thing. But there was still one final step, and without it, the first two would have left him hard but hollow. The third step is what made his unbreakable mind actually mean something. Here is the question I planted at the very beginning. How does a man stay calm while his whole world burns down? Now you have the answer, all 3 steps of the code. Step 1, train in discomfort on purpose, so hardship finds you already prepared. Step 2, in every crisis, divide the world instantly into what you control and what you do not, and pour your energy only into the first. And step 3, the one that holds the other 2 together. Anchor yourself to something larger than your own comfort. For Cato, it was virtue, a code of honor he refused to betray, no matter the cost. At the very end, when Caesar had won, when the Republic was finished, when there was no escape left, Cato chose to die on his own terms rather than live under a tyrant and grant that tyrant the power to pardon him. Even death he refused to surrender control of. You may not face an empire, but you face 1,000 small moments that ask the same question. So here is what you can do tonight. Pick one discomfort, just one, and walk toward it on purpose. Take the cold shower. Sit in the silence with no phone for 10 minutes. Send the message you are afraid to send. Then, the next time something rattles you, stop and ask Cato's question out loud. Is this in my control? Watch what happens to the panic when you do. And finally, write down the one principle you refuse to break, the line that no matter what, you will not cross. That line is your anchor. When the storm comes, and it will, you hold to it. Cato never flinched because he had already practiced every flinch in private long before the world demanded it of him. That is the secret. The unbreakable are not born. They are forged quietly, in the small moments no one claps for. You will be tested, maybe tomorrow, maybe in an hour. And when you are, you will not rise to the occasion. You will fall to the level of your training. So begin the training now, tonight, with one small chosen hardship. If this stirred something in you, subscribe and stay, because the next mind we rebuild together might just be the one that carries you through your hardest year.